a game master who's willing to do that with you. You have to have a group that's willing to do that also.
Right.
Because a lot of this romance in gaming really hinges on the fact that the other players at the table are cool with you doing solo stuff. You have to have a group size that's conducive to people doing one-on-one gaming.
You can
Monday game is you'd never get it done on Monday.
But, I mean, even a group this size, we've got, 5 players and a game master at the table. That may be too big.
Yeah, I think you're pushing the envelope.
I just thought of something, and Mark is going to hate this, but I think it would be brilliant, or at least funny.
Is the next time to do with me not coming?
Yes, it probably
Brilliant!
Brilliant!
The next time you have a girl show up at the shop and want a game, you should play that Kagimatsu game.
The one, yes.
Force the
It was one of the indie games that we talked about, Kagimatsu, where one of the players has to be a female. And she plays the Ronin, and everybody else is courting her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think that would be hilarious.
Yes.
If Mark had to do that.
Yeah, it would be.
It's not common for us, mostly I think because we're more focused, especially now that we're older and we don't have all the time in the world to game like we used to. We're very focused on the story. We're focused on achieving tasks, things like that, and character development becomes a secondary or even a tertiary concern to us.
For me, I finally got to start gaming regularly after I had worked that out personally.
Right.
I got married, and I didn't get to start gaming again until after I got married. So I didn't have that hole to fill in gaming.
Right.
Is that essentially is what we're doing here. Is we're using these games to kind of fill holes in our.
That's a very good
lives.
point. And you know what's funny is in something kind of along that line. The last time we played Shadowrun, we really didn't have the urge to go and party.
Right, because we don't care about that anymore.
Yeah, and it's not such a big deal to us anymore.
I don't even actually go out drinking anymore.
I will coincidentally say that all of my characters do have a tendency to want to gather wealth because I, personally, want to gather wealth.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of where you are in life. Yeah. What you're needing at that particular moment.
That is
I think
good.
the only other thing I could comment on as far as Valcon falling in love with Shauna would be he targeted Shauna because she was an assassin. Because I had seen that Mike had used...
Your big rival was an assassin also.
I think she worked for him, didn't she?
That's right. Yeah,
But-
it's a whole ball of wax.
Yeah, there's a lot of backstory there, but I had seen how Mike had used Laura as a pawn against Mortellin, and I realized what better wife to have than a woman who can take care of herself.
Sure.
And take care of you.
Right. And
Baby, you got my back.
right. So I
need a hot
but of course as soon as
female who's an assassin and a doctor.
But as soon as I married her and as soon as my character married her and they started having kids, of course she turns into a total wuss and she can't do anything anymore.
And you've got to come and save
Right,
her.
exactly.
It's like the complete opposite of the damsel in distress.
Right.
No,
It's like after you get her, she becomes the damsel in distress.
I just thought of a funny storyline. What if, say, that role was kind of reversed, and she was the assassin married to a mundane guy, and you got to go rescue the guy from his insane wife, who's a killing machine.
They did that movie. It was The Long Kiss Goodbye.
Yes, it was.
you can't force those relationships. If you go into you break a brand new character and then you say, well, this character's going to seek a relationship, I don't think those usually work out. I think sometimes the ones that you kind of stumble upon, like the assassin thing, that end up working out the best.
Right.
Yeah. Taking it slow and building the relationship. It's just like in real life. If you try too hard, you're going to push that person away, that kind of thing. So I think in gaming, it works that way too. It becomes a much more poignant and powerful emotional bond to a non-player character if you've dealt with this character slowly from the beginning, not always rescuing her from the clutches of the evil wizard and things like that.
Right.
But,
Well, I'm not rescuing this time. I told you not to go out after 12. You did
got
anyway.
yourself into this one. So I was sitting here thinking, when we started the Sea Princes campaign, I wanted my guy to be Jack Sparrow.
Right.
Where when you watch the movie, there was a woman in every port who was just dying to smack him because he had slighted her in some way or he cheated on her.
Right.
So that's how I started out with Vic. Every port, trying to make something happen. But just incidentally, out of nowhere during a bar fight, as a distraction, he kisses another woman from the other ship. And ever since then, I'm like, well, maybe she's really should be the one, and it just so happens to be she's the heartless, unattainable one. Purely because she was standing next to Vic at the right time.
Right. And sometimes lightning strikes like that, you know?
So after
that's what I'm talking about, the unintended.
Right.
The unattainable.
It's a level of maturity, I think. Whenever you evolve or you grow up as a gamer, you start to think of, you start to think of women not when you're a kid. You're thinking of girls as
boobies.
We'll
boobies,
just say
boobies.
a vaginal delivery system.
Right. And exactly. And then, but later on, you really start to understand that, they have, they may have different needs than you, but, you start to have a more evolved sense of what women are. They're not just, and in games, I think that evolves too. You're not just thinking of girls as the princess, the princess or the whore. They're
that other piece of treasure,
the barmaid,
right? The bar wench and things like that. I mean, sure, you still sometimes play that up.
Well, that's a trope. I mean, that's just
that's the manly art of wenching.
Sean, have you ever had any?
No, because I basically all my characters have basically just came into an area, went straight for the whorehouse, had fun,
money.
The manly art of wenching.
Yeah. Throw some coin at her.
You're very like Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, I didn't. Woman here now.
Now I have a strange question for you. What about MMO? You've had a long experience of MMO, and I know that there are people who've had romances.
Yeah, how much RP goes into that?
Well, in WoW, hardly none. In Star Wars, there's a lot because you can actually choose certain answers to when you get your 3 options.
Right.
My character has actually already slept with 2 females on the game.
Damn.
That sounds like something they did in Dragon Age too.
And there's a girl in my squad that if I flirt with other girls in the storyline, you will get negative force points with her, and it's
because she's getting jealous.
She's getting jealous because she likes me.
That's brilliant.
Now that's the integrated stuff. I'm talking. I'm more talking about what about
flirting with a 44-year-old man named Carl who's pretending to be a hot young.
I think it happened in Ultimate, as I recall, where they would have weddings and things like that, like in-game weddings and things like that of characters getting married. Did you ever know of anybody that did that?
That's not a thing. I've never seen that, actually.
I will say
now. I know the fact that there are at the beginning of WoW. You notice that a lot of the female characters get helped a lot more often than the male characters, because when you're playing that, you think you're actually interacting with a real female,
right?
And come to find out,
man named
guys
Carl.
were making female characters to get ahead in the game faster.
Right.
I'm raising my hand.
Yes, I made it after I learned that little trick. When the DC Online came out, I made a female character and played it off as a female, and people were inviting me in their groups all the time.
Right.
Eric and
I made Hit Girl, the little pink hair girl. Oh man, I was always in a group.
Eric and I made super hot superheroes in
City of Heroes.
City of Heroes.
Oh, that was a good
and
game.
we got that same reaction. People would stop by and be like, and then they would stop and stare at us.
It was funny because I don't mind.
I was all white. You were all black.
Well, yeah, you were platinum blonde, and it was like with white hair and all that.
It was a gorgeous character.
Yeah. And I just made the photo negative of of your character, and we just stood there one time and we were just talking, and people were coming around just standing next to us, like just checking us out, and we were like, and Dan kept going, this dude is cracking me up.
Because I'm sure they thought they were probably hanging out with 2 hot chicks. Right.
Which is so strange to me is, what makes you think that just because you're seeing that?
Hope. It's because you want it, and as long as you don't have something telling you otherwise.
Yeah.
I saw it kind of along these lines. I saw it as it was a statistic, it was a breakdown that WoW, World of Warcraft, is a better matchmaker than Match.com because of the sheer number of people and how many people get together.
And common interests.
It's not
common
it's
interests.
True. I've got
It's basically like a giant chat room.
When I got on,
giant chat room where large, smelly people can find each other.
No,
well, the thing is, you get Ventrilo, and everybody's getting on Ventrilo, and
we used to use
it's
it
male or female.
as well.
Yeah.
But in my guild that I was in, I bet we had 10 females in our guild.
Out of how many?
45.
That's not bad.
So out of 45 people, 10 of them were females, and they played a lot. I mean, they were on there a lot. And
yeah, because WoW is big with like stay-at-home moms.
yes, they were, and that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
But you could hear kids crying in the background, and you'd be like, Cindy, please put your kid to bed.
That reminds me of
The Guild.
The Guild. Yeah. Have you watched? Have you
No,
watched
I've never
that?
seen it.
You would love it, Sean.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
But you would actually have these girls, and you become such good friends with them and get to know them, because I played for 4 years, and I knew this girl the whole time, and we would talk every night.
Right.
And it got to the point where she's, hey, come down and hang out with me. She wanted me to drive down to Texas.
And a lot of people do
and
this.
see her
absolutely.
and hang out.
Yeah, this is never a good idea.
No, and I finally, send me a picture first.
Yeah, that's not shallow.
That's sight
You're
unseen.
a horrible person.
Shallow Sean.
Well, that's when, Facebook, well, actually, it was MySpace was out.
Right.
Facebook wasn't even out yet.
Right.
Then Facebook came out, and then the guild said, well, we need a Facebook page. We got a Facebook. Then you could start seeing the faces with the voices.
And that's
you're
when
like,
Sean quit.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yes.
No,
Right.
but it was pretty fun, though. It was
But
just
like what you're
awesome.
saying, you were probably communicating with whoever's, Lisa or whatever her name was,
Yeah.
way more than any other people were communicating with her. You were speaking to these people, or, some of these people every night for 4 years. I mean, that's a heavy commitment. That's probably more than a lot of people have in a relationship.
Yeah.
How many times do, as a married couple, or, as somebody who's...
You can go an entire day without really talking to each other.
Exactly.
Because you're just in your routines and you're just doing what you got you need to do. And
Especially when you're just not talking to each other.
Right.
When you're just grinding out levels, you're grinding out levels, and it's so mundane and over. But you're doing your daily grind, and it's you've already maxed out 3 or 4 characters, so you know what you're doing. It's just repetition.
Right.
So you're talking about worldly things on Ventrilo, and it has nothing to do with the game. But
Right.
you and her are just
you're on a date.
You are basically
You're on a date.
and
Yeah.
And I know her so well that even our characters are working perfectly together, and we're not even playing the game. We're
You get
just,
to the point where it's almost automatic.
yeah. I mean, it's so weird how you get
Sounds
to know
like
them.
marriage.
I know.
So, but I'm glad we brought that up, because that was something that I did want to talk about, was because there are a lot of people who World of Warcraft, Star Wars, Old Republic, whatnot.
For whatever reason, that's their interaction with the outside world.
That's their interaction with the outside world. That's their gaming. They don't have a gaming group to play with. That's their gaming outlet.
The Star Wars one, since you can make different choices in your questions, like the girl in my squad, I'm actually answering questions now to keep her happy. It's weird.
You're changed so that way you don't lose.
You're being gamed by a game, man.
Yeah, and this isn't a real
Stop
person.
playing.
This is the game, and yeah, it is. It's like an online, or not an online romance, but I worry about what I want her to have the highest rating for me.
So and that in that game also, you can give them gifts.
Yeah,
So
you can buy
disappointed, Sean,
gifts.
right now.
Yeah, you can actually you can find gifts as you're questing, or you can actually go to a vendor and buy these gifts to give your people.
Mark is disappointed in Sean, and I think, man, Sean's done growed up.
I think that romance in games, it helps if you're wanting to inject some real life emotion into your game, because motivations for your characters, that, like you said, Dan, there's just so many quests and so many swords you can get.
Right.
You gotta have something else to strive for, some other emotional attachment to your character, or emotional bond with the things around you. I mean, when you're playing a game and, it's like, oh, we've got to go rescue somebody, you're not going to rescue another player, because otherwise they're sitting there watching you play.
Right.
Rescuing the NPC is what you always end up doing.
Right.
And it's another thing to spend your gold on beside yourself.
Yeah. But
You're
here's
saying that's like an economy leveler?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is in real life, too.
But as a challenge, I would like to see at least once a love triangle.
Between PCs?
No, PCs and an NPC.
Oh, okay.
Like 2 PCs courting the same
So make
NPC.
it an actual competition.
Yeah, I think that would
See,
be a lot of fun.
Here's the thing about an RPG versus real life. In real life, they say there are more fish in the sea. In an imaginary universe, there are an infinite number of other fish in the sea. So I'll find some other NPC to flirt with.
Well, then you're not a good candidate for this.
I am not. I don't like to flirt with Mike anyway.
You should try it. It's not that bad.
It's the goatee thing. But here's something we haven't really covered. It was like this whole episode we've spoken as a gaming group of all dudes.
Right.
There's gaming groups that have women in them. It's like I'd like to kind of hear, on the forum or whatever.
Sure, absolutely.
Groups
I know
that
Greg has
have
mentioned it before, where his wife was playing. Yeah.
But I'm talking about, it's like, has there been a romance dynamic that existed purely between a character of a female player and another male player
when they weren't
actually in a relationship? Maybe they're both married, just not to each other,
and maybe sitting at the table with
their wife or whoever.
Their better halves.
Yeah,
right.
I think that
I could see that getting complicated.
I could too. I could see it getting complicated, and I could see